Alex Rance, welcome to the Dylan Friends podcast, my friend. It's not a small thing saying this is a big thing for the podcast.
No, thanks for having me, Dill. It's actually my very first podcast.
You're kidding.
Never done a podcast before. Been on radio, been on TV. So, yeah, I'm actually pretty nervous, to be honest.
So am I. I'm sweating. I'm sweating, but I sweat a lot. I like sweating. Now, this is actually funny. I wasn't going to talk about this, but name dropping. I ran into Mike Sheehan just 5 minutes ago before you were coming in. I was waiting for you. And I was flexing on Mike, as we're competitors these days. He runs one of the best journos in the AFL that there's ever been. And he said, "Who you got today?" I said, "Rancey. Rancey's coming in." And he didn't believe me. I didn't actually believe me. I sort of thought for a second, is this a stitch up? He actually might not be coming. But he said that he's even asked you on open mic, and you've chosen Dylan Friends.
Yeah, well, I want to be a friend of Dylan Friends. So I'm not. I've always been. It's always been a very us and them mentality between journos and players.
Yeah.
So I like to stick with that sort of tradition.
Oh man, he's smooching me. I feel really good right now. I feel so good, mate. Honestly, it's so good to have you in. Such a pleasure. Massive fan of you as an individual and a player for a long time. And today to unpack that, I suppose it's going to be a lot of fun. Have you been, man? As I said, larger than life character, you're almost in a way like I refer you to like a Batman. Like you're this guy that like everyone loves. You've one of the most consistent AFL players in the game, this big personality, and all of a sudden you just disappear. And it's just like, it's so like exciting.
Well, that wasn't really. I didn't have like a brand manager that's like, this is going to be great for your identity. Just drop off the face of the earth. That'll be awesome. Yeah, when you make your comeback, which I'm not. Or am I? Dark Knight Rises. So, like, I've been good. Like, yep. It was kind of an interesting time to retire in 2019, at the end of 2019, because 2020 was the year to be forgotten, like, the Voldemort year, like, we shall never speak of 2020.
Yeah, no, seriously, we won't.
So, yeah, it was weird, like, to see footy not happening, then footy happening. So I didn't really get the same sort of, like, emotional journey out of the game that you can sort of see. And, like, I was kind of torn between, like, maybe I don't want footy to keep going. So maybe, like, because then that'll make me feel better about myself, or, I don't know. I went through a lot of different emotions, but then to see the Tigs win at the end of 2020, I was like so pumped and so excited, because out of such a horrible year, at least my mates got to get something good out of it. But yeah, it was such a weird transition 2020. But 2021 started off a lot better. But it's been good in a way that I could just sort of stop and reflect and take stock of the decision that I made and realize that it was a really good one. So
I love that. And look, we had very different careers in terms of everything, but I think
we actually might have played on each other a few times when you were at the Blues.
Did not play on you,
so run into each other because you're a forward, sort of getting around the feet. Because I was talking to Hammer about it, Sean Hampson, when you guys were in your Carlton together and all that kind of stuff. And I reckon because we were all cutting our teeth together, you, me, and Hammer, we were all kind of like fringe dwellers for the first sort of 3 years.
Do not ever compare me to you.
We were, hear me out. And then in and out of VFL sides, the team trying to trade us out and all that kind of stuff. And it just so happened that I got lucky and my career went on.
Yeah.
And then
you did it for us, basically.
I did it for the battlers.
Yeah,
so,
good.
Pick 18 in the draft. I was like, really battling.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I felt that connection throughout, even though we never spoke about it. Speaking of Sean Hampson, something I want to bring up that I'm actually really upset about with him for once. Sean and I are both fans of stage performances.
Yep.
Like
so
Jersey
like
Boys.
And
theatre.
Stuff? Yeah. All same.
So I love Jersey Boys.
Yep.
Okay. Went there. I was like, Hampo, you're going to love this. So got Hampo a ticket. I'm a rookie, have no money here. And bought Hampo a ticket. Also none of the other boys a ticket. Hampo never paid me back for that ticket.
What
still to this day.
If you're listening to this, Sean, I'm looking into the mic as if I'm staring into your eyes. Pay him back, you dog. You got the Ascot food store. You got all these
He's got money.
Hollywood, Dollywood, all this kind of whatever your place is in Dalesford. Pay the man back.
Yeah, it's actually still a bit raw. Anyway, we'll move on. I always like to say how we know each other. Obviously, that was one story, but another one is Dave Allard, your cousin, actually played at Carlton as well. For fans of the podcast, I know I'd tell this story a lot, but he actually beat me up on my first day.
Really?
Which probably won't surprise you, I don't think. He's a bit of an angry man.
So long story short about Dave, and I'll get you to elaborate on your story in a sec. So Dave and I are second cousins, but like cousins. So, but we didn't really know we were cousins until we started playing football. So there was always this like legend of this guy called Dave Allard, who won like every association best and fairest from like
Superstar.
12 until like 16, because he was just like accumulator. So everyone was like, oh, Dave Allard. And so we both got a scholarship to go to Guildford Grammar in Perth together. And then we were like, oh, we're kind of like related or something. So the first interaction we really had was in like woodwork class, because we were both trying to share this lathe. He was on it, I was on it. He ends up taking
Face
the
off.
wood out of the lathe and donging me on the head with it. So again, another thing that we have in common.
He's an absolute brute, man. He's an absolute brute.
He's softened now with parenthood. So
He definitely. Just on that, and I think that you would agree with this. Like, we talk about being more of a person than a player. Like, one thing I do love about Dave Allard, and I got a lot of respect for him on this, is I think he signed like 10 one-year deals, and he was just like the biggest hustler, like always doing work outside of footy.
Yeah.
And it was something that I was like, I've got to do this too. Like, I'm like Dave, I've got to like think about what's next. And now he's going really well, living over in Perth, and has just had like one of the best transitions out of sport, which we'll talk about later, something we're both pretty passionate in.
I don't know, always had this like really working class mentality that like, I think generationally, like our age group is kind of the bridge between the really old school, like semi-professional, like working class, earn your stripes, to now kind of like a younger generation that a lot of things are sort of like given, and they're almost famous before they're famous, like with Instagram and social media and all that kind of stuff. And so he was still like very much an old school working class, like I need to earn my stripes even when I have my stripes kind of thing. So it doesn't surprise me at all that he's had such a successful transition, like him and like Rowie as well.
Yeah.
Like they just like,
Well, they were working they built Mick Moldhouse's back patio while they were playing at Carlton.
Mick would have actually taken probably a tax deduction off that
did.
as well.
He
Yeah,
did.
'cause he's like,
Yeah, we've heard those. Like going back, I suppose as you're saying, Guildford Grammar as a kid, you're playing at Swan Districts. What was Alex Rance like growing up playing at Swan Districts? I know, did you play with Yaron and the likes?
yeah, so we had that like the super under 18s team, like they always talk about being like the best team that's ever played as an under 18. So we had like Nick Natanui, Chris Yaron, Neville Jetta, Lewis Jetta, myself, Dave Allard, Luke Pratt, Clancy Pearce, Tony Knott, all drafted in one
Jeffy
year.
Garlett, was he there as well?
Sorry, Jeff Garlett was
Yep.
there as well. I reckon there might have even been another two. So like 12 drafted from, imagine like the Geelong Falcons or Oakley Chargers or Calder Cannons or something in 1 year, like which we won the grand final by like 70 points. And that was mainly because of Nick Natanui. But yeah, like, and Yaz was just like a weapon as well. Like everyone saw how mercurial he was when he was playing. So like I was kind of like under 16s, I was trash. Like I made the under 16s state team just probably because of my dad's name. Like Rance, maybe he should be good or something.
Yeah.
So I was like this boring stay-at-home fullback that wasn't even close to bothering any recruiters. Got a scholarship to Guildford. Really enjoyed it there. So got a bit more confidence within my body, and just started to put on a bit more size and stuff, and was playing as like a midfielder. And then we finished school a year early. So I finished school at 17, 18. I was working, just doing furniture. So I took a gap year. I got accepted into landscape architecture out of school. And I took a gap year and started moving furniture. So I started to get a little bit more confident in my body, and then played under 18s footy. So that whole year was like, basically, I'm going to give footy a crack and see what happens. And then, yeah, I was sort of made the state team, made the All-Australian team. And then, yeah, started to draw a bit of attention towards the back end of the year, but it was kind of it all happened in 1 year. Like I went from 16 to 18 being completely off the radar to being like in the top 20 in the draft. So it was kind of a pretty quick transition.
That's huge, man. So even at a younger age, and I suppose we'll get to this later with your story and your love for footy, but also love for other things. Like it wasn't always at the top of your radar. It was just like something you did because you enjoyed it, but it wasn't like be all and end all.
Well, it's like, yeah, enjoyment was kind of a weird thing to attach to footy at that age as well, because I didn't really enjoy it that much. Like I started playing footy when I was 12, so I guess probably to wind it back for those who don't really know me or much about my family and stuff. So my dad, he was the second captain ever of West Coast. He came over before that, he won 3 premierships at Swan Districts. Then the AFL became a thing. Come over and played for the Bulldogs. Went back when West Coast got introduced. Was the second ever captain. So I had a bit of a name to sort of live up to that, but I didn't really know that until other people sort of told me that. So I never really played footy up until like I was 12. But my old man would always kick the footy with me in the backyard. He actually did his ACL slipping on a dog turd in the backyard post footy. Never injured himself, but that's when he actually did his ACL. So that was a pretty funny story. But I think I was like 11 or 12. I was like, no. So that's a funny story about Muzza.
Yeah.
Shout out Muzza.
Shout out Muzza. I know he's a big fan.
Then under 12s, my very first possession was a throw. So I was playing for the Naranda Hawks. I jumped on the footy, packed myself that everyone's jumped on, and I've just like tunnel balled it in between my legs to throw it out. And the umpire's just like that is a throw, and you're playing the wrong sport, big fella. So it was I just went from just being nothing and just sort of playing it just because my dad wanted to do it. And we would sort of like duck out of church a bit early just to get to footy and stuff like that on a Sunday. And so it was kind of just like a weird, relationship, me and footy to start.
It's crazy because from what I've heard from when you were a young player at Richmond, it's more that like, and again, this probably doesn't correlate and it might just be more of you as a person, but like your work ethic and training standards are second to none. So did that come later? Did that come when you were sort of at that, draft age, or was that what happened when you first got to Richmond?
I think I'm naturally like a people pleaser. Like I love making people laugh. If there's like an awkward situation, I'll try and de-awkwardize it by maybe making myself the butt of it or something like that. And so I guess that was probably my vehicle of acceptance, is like work so hard that no one can deny that they can sort of accept me. And like I was always an athlete. Like I loved triathlons when I was growing up. And probably one of the reasons why I changed schools is because I'd basically do every athletics event into school and we still lost. Like it was just, we would just not, I went to like a music and art school for my first, like up until year 10. So that's where I kind of got my like theatrical side and public speaking and all that kind of stuff. Like my sister loved it, but for me, I was just like, we need some sport in this joint. And so me and the PE teacher just used to hang out all the time. And then I was like, I was out of there. Mr. Pitt, his name was. He used to play for Swan Districts as well. I was like, man, this guy's the man. You know when you look up to PE teachers, it's like they're the best. And now I look back and I'm like, I think I've actually Googled his career and he didn't play too many games for Swan Districts.
Anyone older than you that has like done anything you think are like the coolest people in the world. Yeah.
So like, I don't know, I did work really hard because I felt like that was the only thing I had going for me, because I didn't think I was a very good footballer. Do you remember a player called Clinton Benjamin?
No.
Played for Carlton?
Yes.
As well?
No.
So he went to Hale, I went to Guildford. He was like the best 400 meter runner in WA. And then he got drafted, but he just sort of couldn't run to the right places and probably wasn't in the right sort of, coaching zone, all that kind of stuff. But like, I felt like he and I were really similar, that we're both athletes, but we just didn't know how to funnel that into being a footballer. So I just tried to work my tail off, get respect that way, because I couldn't really get respect by getting the footy. So I guess that's how that tag came.
Do you reckon that the respect it obviously forged into respect, and I know it was, but early days, there's a story. I don't know if there's any truth to this, but telling Richo to run through the cones at training on your first session. Is there any truth to this? For people who don't know, Matthew Richardson at that stage would have probably been in the peak of his career, or down, like finishing off his career. First day you're there, he's pulling up too short of the cones and you're just making sure the big fella runs through.
I've got a lot of stupid floggy things that I've done throughout my life, but this probably takes the cake. Like in your first year, the guy who's like the marquee player, and it's like Matthew Richardson, daylight, the next person, or maybe like Nathan Brown. He was a big marquee player as well. And so the thing is, it wasn't even a conditioning session. It was just like the warm up to a training session, like cone to cone warm up, and like Richo's just sort of like pulled up like maybe 3 meters before the cone, just sort of like trundled through. I'm like, "Oi, get through to the cone!" Like first year, and everyone's just like, "Whoa, this kid is coming hot. He's either going to crash and burn, or something's going to happen with his career." So either way, it could be interesting.
Did you sustain that throughout your career? Because I know what it's like. Look, as we said earlier, there's not a lot of things we've got in common, but one is that early journey into AFL, both went into teams that probably weren't performing to what they were, they're big, proud clubs that weren't performing to where they should. And I know straight away, I look at myself, I'm a lot like you, like I'm exuberant and whatnot, but that got beaten out of me when I got there because of, I think, I'm not saying it's no one's fault. You've got to be strong enough in your personality to be your own person, but it took me a long time to learn that. But with all these older guys around, I wasn't saying boo. And you're saying that in your first year. Like, did it get beaten out of you at any stage, or were you just strong and saying, no, this is who I am, I'm going to keep doing it?
I was kind of strong in who I was. Like, I didn't really care too much. And like, my philosophy was like, they're either laughing at me or with me. As long as they're laughing, I don't care.
Yeah.
So like, but I hear what you're saying, and I think I hope that tradition is changing, that it's kind of like, you can't laugh and have fun unless you're winning.
Yeah.
Which, it's like the chicken or the egg. Like, what comes first? You have fun, then you win, or you win, then you have fun and laugh. Like, and yeah, we were at the same point, like, where like now, and even through the more successful times of the Richmond Footy Club, and I know how much they celebrate and have fun now. It's like, even in losses, like, you've still got to see the funny side. Like, because if you just keep accumulating and building up all this negativity in your life, it's all going to come crashing down at some point. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I kind of just like pushed through it, and I made sure that I sort of, life is tribal. Like, you've got to keep the people who love that close to you. So there was guys like Adam Patterson and Will Thursfield and Adam Thompson and Jaden Post and Andy Brown, who, like, we were kind of all in the same tribe. We all laughed at stupid stuff. We're all kind of finding our way from a football perspective where we fit. So that was kind of our tribe within a tribe, if it made sense. So like, as much as I wanted the like first round draft picks and like all the best players to accept me, like, I still had my tribe at the end of the day. And I think that's why, like, as my career went on, I resonated with a lot of the players that sort of struggled and made their way through, is because I struggled too. Like, my career wasn't exactly like, top 10 pick, straight into the lineup, and then you go from there. Like, and that's probably why Koch and Jack are such good players, is because they were so good at a young age and they just kept going with it. Whereas I was like up and down, and found my way, which I guess makes me relatable too.
Yeah.
But that's why you need different people within a club to help relate.
Can definitely see that. And, as we'll talk about then, I just had this memory of when I was a young guy at Carlton, and I said, as I really struggled early to like be myself, because I was like, fuck, I've got to conform to this, and, I've got to be like Chris Judd if I want to be like successful. I'm not Chris Judd, I'm me. And I remember going into a meeting one day with like the leadership group, and this isn't a go at the least, like they're all still like my friends today, but this was more like the messaging coming down to the leadership group was that I was laughing too much. Yeah. And like, I needed to take things more seriously. And like, I look back now and I just think like, fuck me. Like, I was actually going out on the track trying not to smile, because like that was got to be serious. And I was like, even if something funny happened, I was just like pretending it didn't happen, because like I couldn't laugh.
I hate that. I hate, so yeah, I went the extreme. If someone told me that I couldn't do that or to stop, I would go to the next level.
But that's the thing that you were saying before, though, isn't it? About like laugh before you win or win before you laugh. If you're performing on field, even though you said you had these ups and downs, it's okay to laugh. Yeah. Because I'm playing in the twos and can't get a game, I'm not allowed to smile.
I don't like bagging them out, but for me, that's not good culture.
It wasn't.
You've got to celebrate everyone at every level, because it takes 40 blokes to win a premiership. Like, whether you're... look at Marlon Pickett, for example. If he came in 2019 and was just sort of like, didn't hold himself the way that he did, then he wouldn't have, because he started in rehab, was in rehab for so long, just like bought into the culture. And then who knows what's going to happen at the end of the day, gets his selection, wins a premiership medal, and just like plays amazingly in that game. But if there is this like suppressive culture of like, you're not allowed to be you until you're good, there's no way that he would have had that game. There's no way that that story would have existed. So culture has to be like, be you, and how can we utilize all your assets on field and off field to make us a better team? For sure. And I think that, now from what people are saying, and at Giants, they did that really well, and I know Richmond have done it well publicly. It's been a big thing, authenticity and celebrating being different and whatnot. But I know that the Blues are doing that now too, so just don't get too upset if you're listening to this. Mate, this is totally off topic, but when I was doing my research today, something I wanted to ask you about was, I think you would have been in your second or third year when Ben Cousins went to Richmond. Yeah. Being a WA boy and an AFL lover, like, we all love Ben Cousins. There's like a sweet spot in your heart about Ben Cousins. I love him till the day I die. What was it like when he rocked up there? Because I'd totally forgotten about that period. that was kind of like the first injection of like hysteria that I'd ever experienced around, because everyone's like, oh, Richmond's a sleeping giant, all this kind of stuff. Like, you wait until you have success, and like every club says that, every big Victorian club. But you know, he came down, and it was just like at a midweek training session, there was thousands of people lining the boundary just to watch him warm up. Yeah. And like, he'd literally do 2 strides and go inside because his body was fried and he couldn't do anything. Like, but just his, like, he was the epitome of inclusion. Yeah. Like, he was always, and that's where the thing that I took from him about, and his like sort of rubbing off on me, was that it's always, you've got to protect your tribe. So his tribe was the players. So he was even like, and one of his favorites is like, this is us against them boys. Like, and then we're like, you know, who, Cuzzy? Like, who are we against? He's like, the coaches. We're against us first. Then we've got to protect each other. We've got to look after each other. You know, if they're going to drop one of our blokes, we've got to let them know about it. Like, and in some ways I was like, that's such madness. But in another way, I'm like, that's brilliant. Yeah. Like, you do have to protect that, because sometimes the coaches don't know what's happening in the locker room. And so I was like, that was so real. It was like such a cool experience. And one thing I'll always take is, even though, and that was the strength of a leadership group, is being that connection between the playing tribe and the coaching tribe, and making sure that you're not really picking sides one or the other, because you can't. You need to be the bridge. But like, I had nothing but positive experiences with Cuzzy. So yeah. No,
I know it's so sad what's happened there, but I know that everyone that has played with him and knows, like, just can't speak better of him. It's just obviously a sad story that we don't know the rest of it. How many coaches did you have at Richmond early day, like before they got to Dimmer?
So it was only Terry Wallace and then Dimmer.
Okay.
So and then David King was my backline coach.
Kingy, I didn't know he coached.
So he was he was an interesting coach, like, because he was kind of the first of the like play to your strengths type thing. But because he was such a good kick, I don't think he could understand that the rest of us aren't that good a kick. So he's like, mate, just back your kicks. I'm turning the ball over, like, I'm kicking at 20% efficiency, and he's like, just back your kicks, man. I'm trying, David. I can't do it. Like, so that was probably why the ups and downs were there. But he was
yeah, he wouldn't have been a good coach for me. I don't think that doesn't make sense. Richmond, as we said, you know, early weren't performing to what they did. All of a sudden, you hit, you know, that 2016 mark. 2015's building, obviously 2016, 17 the premiership. We've spoken to Ben Crow on the podcast before. We've spoken to Emma Murray about some changes there. But from your point of view, what were the biggest changes at that time that got Richmond to what it is now?
It all kind of started because we did play finals. I think our first final was against you guys, Carlton, and then so you guys won that one, and we hadn't won a final. We played against North, and then we played against Port, where we got absolutely wiped out, and then we missed the finals, and then it was kind of so we'd had a little bit of a taste of success, and so we sort of knew that, like, we had talent, but that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for us to win at the top level, and we didn't really have sort of a identity of gameplay, like that this is what a Richmond brand looks like. And so I guess the transition for us felt like, well, okay, this is a clear idea of what our identity is on field, and this is the piece that I can put into that. And so it's not about saying that, you know, we're going to draft Camden McIntosh and we want you to be exactly like Trent Cotchin. Yep. It was like, okay, Camden McIntosh, you're an elite runner, you're really physical, you're going to be like the most physical wingman we've ever seen, and that's his role. Like, and almost becoming more specific with the value a person can add. So this is your role, and no one else can take this from you. And that's the thing that I sort of see the danger in some of what potentially the Dogs are doing, is they're trying to make like midfielders play forward and rotate everyone through. It's kind of like, well, now I'm like the most replaceable player in the team because a midfielder can replace me, a forwarder can replace me. Like, how comfortable do I feel in my position? So I don't know. It was kind of about, like, first of all, being vulnerable to say, this is my skill set, this is what I offer, and then this is where I can add value on field, but also off field too. So the vulnerability piece helped everyone to be more uniquely themselves, to say, whether I get a game or I don't get a game, this is who I am on field and off field. And can I help? And then from there, it sort of was like we celebrated each other's strengths, which is almost like we celebrated you. We didn't celebrate your performance. So it's almost like a bigger pat on the back to say, oh, wow, like you accept me for me. And then that builds. And even if you don't get a result, you're still my mate. You're still a good person. I still value you. So
that's the change there that I feel. And you know, it's happened and that's what Richmond do. But that can't be an overnight thing because those actions of like, you know, as we said before, laugh before you win, win before you laugh, they're ingrained at like football clubs. And especially when you said it's about culture, that couldn't have happened overnight, surely. Like there must have been times where you like went back and reverting to blaming the person rather than the action, or okay, how long did that process take? Or was it sort of imminent and they were like, Dimmer was like, nah, this is why we're doing it. And it sort of just changed like.
I think, and we sort of spoke beforehand about like coaches and sometimes like boards and football clubs are very quick to drop an axe rather than just to like persevere. And the same, like one of Dimmer's most famous sayings is like, you're never as close as what you think and you're never as far away as what you think.
Yeah.
And so it's about like, you know, you can get some good results from poor process and think you're going the right way about it. But if you have a good process and you just sort of ride it out on an even keel, you're going to get the better results at the end of the day, which is, you know, we've seen maybe with North Melbourne that potentially might have jumped at a good opportunity, but maybe didn't look at the process around it. So got some good results with a caretaker situation, but what's the process around that? How can we make sure this is sustainable? And then when things weren't going right, it kind of fell down a little bit.
Oh man, you're good.
So
that was really impressive. I that's what I want to say, but I just can't put that together. That was really cool.
No, I don't know how. I don't take compliments well either.
That was good. No, because it's so true. And like you look back at that, there's no one that looks cooler by yourself than Brendon Gale in this situation. Like that thing he did, like where, you know, referencing to back, I think it was Footy Classified with Gary Lyon, there was leaked documents of this bold 10-year plan and everyone's like, you're not going to do this. And, you know, power of the mind, I love this shit, putting things into the universe. Universe is my best friend. Brendon Gale has just done this and just backed in and just gone bang, bang, bang. And it shows exactly to your point. And I'm so confident on this in the AFL. I think the AFL, and I think Australians in general, I don't want to put this in sport. I think as Australians or as people or whatever it is, we're so reactive. And one thing that I really try and do now is if one thing happens, don't react to that one thing. Like step back and look at it as a whole. Like, is that a one-off? Is that something that's just come in now? Like, is it something that we can fix? You know, I'm talking about my own life here. And I'm not sure if you've taken anything out of this from that too, because if you make decisions on one thing or one thing that's not going right, it's just, it doesn't make sense.
One of the, like, so Ben Rutten, he was probably the most well-rounded coach that I ever had, in that, like, the way he approached leadership and the way that he approached football technique and the way that he approached work-life balance taught me so much and sort of stabilized me. And in some ways, it was probably the worst thing for my football career because it made me like comfortable enough to want to retire.
Yeah.
But our biggest enemy is emotion a lot of the time. So he would always say to me that, is this logic or is this emotion? Like, what do we have to back up this? Like, what's the data that says that this is a correct decision, or is this an emotional decision? And that can carry out in a football circumstance. So, you know, for example, on field, you know, I feel like I'm being beaten a lot. Like, you know, I just lost that contest. I can't lose the next one. If I lose the next one, then I'm, you know, probably going to get dropped. If I get dropped, then I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. If I don't pay my bills, then my wife's going to leave me. If my wife leaves me, I'm going to die alone. So you've lost one contest and then you're dying alone. Like,
Yeah.
that's you. So
That's
from
my
one
life,
contest,
honestly, yeah.
then, but like, what's the logic? I've lost one contest. Well, I win heaps of contests in the rest of my career. It's just one. Whatever, move on. And then you're back in.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of separating the emotion from the logic, I think, is the most powerful thing in decision making. But it is a fine line because the world is so emotional.
It's so emotional, and I find that now just in life and in general. You know, I'm a very reactive person. Like, I love, like, when I've got something in my mind, I'm like, I fucking need that. And if I don't, now I've sort of learned to give myself, let it breathe, give myself 24 hours, and then you'd be amazed what changes, as you said, once the emotion goes and you actually start thinking with your brain. Very cool. Premiership 2017, impressive, very cool. as you said, all these things change. You're playing some great footy, and we'll touch on your form in a minute. That how consistent that was over that 5 year period. I think it was. As with the accolades would show. What's your memories going into that first grand final? I love grand finals. I say this so strangely, but I don't think I would want to play in an AFL grand final. I know that sounds really bad because I played footy, because it just would fucking kill me. Like how I don't deal with that as well. Like I want to be a premiership player, but the anxiety of a game playing like that honestly makes me feel sick.
Yeah, is it that you don't want to like...
It's probably the fear of failure.
But is it that you don't want to ruin like the idea of what a grand final would be like? Or is it just
it's just probably just thinking, fuck, it's a big stage. Like, would I be able to perform on that stage? Have I got the runs on the board? Which, really, like, not being too harsh on myself, I probably wouldn't have had the runs on the board to perform then. That's probably why I didn't get there. But what was it like for you?
It was just kind of like a wave. Like, I think... because there was such a stark contrast between 2016 where we didn't make finals to us just being like top 4, win, grand final. This is kind of like, oh, that was easy. Like, which it wasn't like, but it's just kind of like when you get on a roll and like, I think Dimmer's like so right whenever like all the negative journos want to say, oh, Richmond aren't what they're supposed to be. But like, you don't win premierships in the start of the year. Like you can lose them for sure, but you don't win them at the start of the year. Just work your way into it. Don't stress. It's going to be okay. Like get to the important part and then win the rest. Like this isn't like the EPL, English Premier League.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the first past the post. Like peak at the right time. So that year was kind of just like, once we won that first final, it was just kind of like, we're going all the way.
Yeah.
And because we had like basically a full house every game. So we had like, we played Geelong, GWS, and then Adelaide. It was like, so Geelong was our home game. So Geelong was their home game, but it felt like a Richmond home game. It was so loud and so noisy. But like, I guess I was really fortunate in that we had such good system and so cemented in our minds that as soon as the ball was bounced, it was like, we're dialed in. Like, this is just like A to B, B to C, C to D, E to F, siren goes, we've won the game. Like, it's kind of... it becomes almost robotic because I was very similar to you in the first half of my career. I used to spew before every game because I was so nervous. So game day became the worst part of my career. I hated game day.
Yeah.
But I loved the sheds and the laugh and the banter and training and working hard and building yourself up to that point. And I know I needed the game to sort of like...
have the rest.
Yeah. It's like, I guess I have to play if you want me to.
Seriously though, that was actually how it felt.
Once the grand final was a relief for me. Like it was just kind of like, I feel satisfied and relieved. Like not this sense of like, pride or anything like that. It was more relief than anything. It was kind of like just this wave, like Geelong, GWS, Adelaide, done. That was just kind of like, wow, that seemed too easy because we knew our process so well.
Huge. Is there a nuance that sticks out in the game for you? I know, every game, and we talk about every game's got it, but in a big grand final, it's amplified because it's the biggest stage and the biggest game of the year. Is there a moment in that game that you were just like, fuck, we're on here? Or was it just more the process in itself? You're just on a roll?
I never had a moment like that because everyone talks about like the Dan Butler goal. Like there was a goal where Butts kicked. It was sort of like bouncing down the right side of the ground, sort of went to ground and he kicked it. And that was kind of like the sealer that gave us enough breathing room. But I don't remember that only because I was so dialed in. I was talking about structure and organising. And like, because I'm such an extrovert, I would just be like, Dave, you're in the right spot. Grimesy, you hold left side. Basher, you're up front. Nick, I would make sure everyone was structured and organised. So I didn't have time to be like, we could win here. Like, this could be it. This could be my first premiership ever. So, like, it was sort of just like, this is my next thing that I have to do. And then before I knew it, the siren was gone. And it was just kind of like, oh, like, that's it.
That's huge. That's so cool. There's one moment that really sticks out to me. It actually wasn't in the grand final, but it was in that Geelong game. And look, it's probably very... already shown that this happened, but that goal that Trent Cotchin kicked where he like did the ground ball, did that spin, and I was just like, these blokes are fucked. Like that, they're not going to lose now. Like it was just like, as you said earlier, my views on this, I haven't played in finals before, but I think winning grand finals is all about momentum. And as you said earlier, like it's like peaking at the right time. And when you can get things like that going, it's not very rarely does a team that's not in good form win a grand final. It's about that momentum coming through. When I saw that, I was just like, yeah, they've got it.
The best analogy for a final is like a tug of war. So you can either win a game of tug of war by just like brute forcing the other person over, or you can wait until they gas themselves out and just walk over the line. And I feel like a lot of our finals were like, we just waited and held until it was like a gas out. And then like the final pull was like the Koch spin. And then it's just like they're falling over and then we've pulled the rope across the line. There's some games like the Port Adelaide versus, I can't remember who it was. There was like just a huge blowout like a few years ago. Like they rarely happen in finals. So it's always just about leaning and backing your system. Don't change. Like don't go for torps up the guts. Don't try and break the game yourself. Like stick to structure as long as you can. Like stay on it. And eventually someone might crack. So it's just about taking the opportunity when it's there.
Impressive. Consistency is something as well that has been, massive factor in your career. 2014 to 2018, 2014 to 2017 or 2018, 5 times All-Australian, captain in 2017. What do you put that down to? Like, in all honesty, that's something where in my life now, like consistency is like my main focus. Like I just want to be the most consistent person I can. You did that, on field for 5 years, competing at that level. What do you think is the biggest factor in that? Is it routine? Is it confidence? Is it?
I think it's still a sense of identity that goes in with that. Like if you're constantly trying to, and this probably like transcends sport. If you're constantly trying to chase a trend, then you're never really going to fully grasp it. And like, I felt like I had enough of a brand on field that could stand up against most. Like, and I got given confidence by, I played on Buddy Franklin and won a few times. I played on Josh Kennedy and won a few times. Like, I played on Drew Petrie and he beat me a few times. Like, so I knew what worked and what didn't. But I had this overarching confidence that, like, if I do what I do, I'll be okay. So I wasn't really reactive to like, I'm playing on Tex Walker this week, so I've got to change this. I'm playing on Jonathan Patton this week. I'm playing on Jeremy Cameron this week. And you lose that sense of identity. It's kind of like, no, this is who I am. This is how I play. And this is the structure that I play in. I know I can be successful if I do that. Just stick to that. So it was almost like simplifying rather than keeping chasing the trend of like, we've got to be intercept markers, or we've got to be big spoilers, or we've got to be this, we've got to be that. It's kind of just like, this is my brand. And I'm going to play it regardless of what the game dictates. And sometimes that frustrated the coaches. Like, times I'd go for the mark when I probably should have gone for the spoil and they'd kick a goal. But I'm like, that's me. You've got to take the good with the bad sometimes. So,
do you think that's transferred now into your off-field work, like into your career now with the academy and off-field? Is it something that you still try and do and just back yourself in, be consistent and stick to what you know and not necessarily what everyone tells you to do?
I think so. I've just got to sort of reformulate that. Like I'm still trying to discover my identity. Like I know who I am as a core, but I don't know what that now looks like in another space. Like I knew what that looked like in a footy space for 12 years, but I'm sort of rebuilding that now. So like, I know I am going to make some wrong decisions along the way. But now it's about, again, talking about what we talked about before, making less emotional decisions, being logical. But yeah, I've got to start to have confidence as a business person, as a mentor for these young people about being consistent. This is who I am. And I want to empower you to feel the same, that like, have this firm conviction of who you are and how you can be successful and what that looks like in your chosen sphere of whatever you want to do.
Love that. Let's talk about the finish of the career. Obviously, you hurt your ACL in round 1 against the Blues, and that was, you're coming back from that. At the end of that year, you retired. Now, we were talking about this earlier, like a couple of years before that, you were sort of saying that there might have been a time where you retired. I didn't really believe you, referred you to Batman. And all of a sudden, you actually do retire, and the whole AFL world is they just can't believe that someone at, as good as you were and as dominant as you were playing at that stage, that you could possibly have something else waiting for you outside of the game. Like, what was that like? What was the retirement like?
It was challenging for a number of reasons, because nothing in life comes free, and when you think about it from its most purest sense, like, dollar value, to get something, you've got to give something up. And so there's always still a part of me which loves football, and it's the best job in the world being an AFL player. It's so fun. Like, you get to play table tennis with your mates. You're around them all the time. You got 40 friends. You get new friends every year. Like, it's huge. It's awesome, but it comes at a cost. Socially, it comes at a cost. Energy, it comes at a cost. Privacy, it comes at a cost. And so retirement for me was looking at all of the chips on the table and saying, like, well, what do I really want? What are my priorities now? And so at that point, and it was good that the year sort of gave me that time in rehab to reflect on, well, my priorities have actually changed. This is what's important with me, my family, my faith. These are the things that I want to put more time and energy into. So it was the logical decision. Like, there's plenty of days where I think that I've made the wrong decision. But again, emotion, logic. I look at the relationship I have with my nephews now, and it's the best decision I made in my life. So it's just about... It seems like an easy decision now, but it was the most challenging decision of my life.
How long were you stewing over this? I suppose, did it come, that whole year while you were injured? Were you tossing up a decision? How did the club take it when you even approached them? Was it something on their radar, or did it come as a shock?
Well, like, I pushed myself really hard to get back from my knee for two reasons. One, in the back of my mind, I was like, this is probably going to be my last year. Like, I'd sort of already toyed with the idea in the year prior that... I think I might even said to Dave Ashby in an ice bath once, I was like, if I win one more flag, I'm probably done. Like, that'll probably do me. I didn't get that flag. But that was sort of the process that it was going around in my mind. And so I reckon I could have played in that grand final in 2019.
Really? So you were back, like, in terms of fitness, you were good to go?
Oh, I felt like I could, yeah. So physically, I felt like I was okay to play.
The lead up to that, had you played any games?
None. So that was the thing. Like, I set myself from the start, like, I want to play in the grand final, and I'm going to push myself to try and get there. So I was running it like 6 weeks, and I was like pushing it really hard, and I had like a cyclops lesion removed and all that kind of stuff. But I felt like I was at a point, and I kept challenging the medical staff to let me play. So it got to a point where we had to make the call, like, am I pushing forward with this, or is it just sort of like cue in the rack and we go for next year? And I had to have that discussion with Dimmer to say, well, mate, it's sort of, I'm either playing my last game as round one or as a grand final. What's it going to be? And he was like, well, what would you do in the situation where if we played you and you felt fine, you broke down mid-game and we lost the grand final? Would you be able to live with yourself? And so it was more of a cultural and emotional decision that I had to make, more so than a physical one. That was like, I don't want to risk everybody's happiness for my greed. And so... Like, who knows? There was probably a little bit of fear of re-rupturing again, but the overriding emotion was I would feel so guilty for the rest of my life if we lost that grand final because I couldn't finish the game. So, yeah, that whole year was sort of 80% going to be my last year. But yeah, it just didn't finish the way that I'd hoped it to. But in some ways, like, it finished better though, because I got involved in a VFL premiership almost as like a coach. So I started coaching the VFL guys and being involved in that more. And we played it on Princess Park Oval against Willie. And like, that was a huge highlight, like such a great game and so amazing to be a part of that and to experience it from a different level. So yeah, that was a huge year for me.
Al, through your career, been so prevalent, and you're super passionate and committed to your faith and religion. From me, I don't have a lot of experience in this, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, to be honest. Would you be able to give us a bit of a explanation on what your religion is, how it works, how long have you been religious for?
Yeah, so it's like...
That was the worst question ever. I'm just going to leave that in, though.
Leave it in there. Hey, I could, by the depth and length of that question, I can understand.
You understand that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
But I think the thing, and like, it's great that you want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I think in Australia, religion is something that, and probably in the world in general, is something that divides a lot of people and makes people feel very awkward and sort of like...
I was like, what am I asking? Like, it's not a big issue that I'm asking about this, but I was so fucking awkward about it.
It's like asking a woman what like size dress they wear.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, that's what have people feel awkward about.
Yeah.
And really, it's like just the size you wear.
Yeah.
Whatever. Not that you would do that.
What size dress do you wear? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
You wouldn't do that, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway, we're sort of beating around the bush. Anyway, back to the faith stuff. So I think for me, like I'm not an ambassador or like someone that I'm not a spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yep.
And that's one thing that I want to make really clear to whoever is listening, is that your faith and your religious understanding needs to come from an education of sorts. And so I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, so I guess the difference between being a Jehovah's Witness and other faiths, other Christian faiths, is that sort of Jehovah's Witnesses don't get baptized at birth. So baptism is something that's sort of, you've got to make the decision yourself that at that time I want to dedicate my life to this value set.
Okay.
That I agree that this organization is for me, that I agree with everything that they're saying. I agree that they're following the Bible's principles, and I agree that like Jehovah is God.
Yep.
So that to me was a really big thing, that I'm not being like forced into believing this. I had the choice to be either in or out. And so, I grew up, and, my mum and dad sort of, we'd go to, like I said, we'd go to church. They called meetings. So we'd go to meetings on a Sunday. Sometimes I'd leave it early to go to footy. Yeah. So it was sort of like, that was the dilemma. But it was all about being a Bible student. So for me, I wanted to learn more about God. I felt like I was created by my mum and dad. So surely who created them, and who created them, and sort of, kept going. And I was like, surely there's got to be something that's created us. So that was like sort of the first thing. And then, I had to work out, okay, well, if the Bible's there as like a resource to try and like work it out, like maybe I should go there for some answers. So starting to research that. And then I was like, okay, well, who's like doing the Bible the best? Like which like Christian organization do I feel like is doing the Bible the best? And then it was sort of, I came back to the fact of, well, maybe Jehovah's Witnesses are doing it quite well. Maybe I should do some more work into that. So it sort of went from a period of doing it because I had to, because it was a family thing. And, I wasn't forced to sort of commit myself at a young age. And then I sort of went away and, got drafted, played footy, experienced a bit of, a different lifestyle. Then I was like, there's something sort of missing in my life. Like I need more of a sort of central values set that gives me more consistency. So came back, did a bit more research, talked to some people, and then realized that, this is the sort of lifestyle that I want to head down. And the way that I sort of look at it now is that if I felt like I had a really good gift or a really good message to give someone, why would I not tell someone about it? And I think that's probably like the most known thing. It's been on like the Family Guy and all that kind of stuff. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are known for like door knocking, like, hello, like we're going to tell you about the future. Like, would you like a positive hope for the future kind of thing, and it's kind of like a kooky thing, but at the same time, it's really just to start conversations at the end of the day and ask people about like, how do you feel about the future? Like, why are we here? Like, why do we get old and die? And why, like, all these different questions, which like we bury and just sort of like, oh, too hard. I'm just going to busy myself. For me, I needed to answer those. And then so from them, I don't know, I just sort of was confirmed the fact that I feel like I have, a really good grasp of what I want my faith to look like.
It's huge, man. So what, and again, I don't know if this is a relevant question, but what does a day-to-day look like? Is it change your life dramatically, or is it just more something that's sitting in the background that helps you live your life the way you want?
So there's like, so think of it as well like a constant education process that like it's not like a once saved, always saved thing. It's just like, I know this, so I'm good. Like when, the apocalypse comes and all that kind of stuff, like I'm good because I've, done X amount of good deeds. Like it's always just about like building more confidence that the Bible is God's word and that, sort of who God is. So from a day-to-day perspective, like on a Wednesday night and a Sunday, that's when we're sort of like our class, if you will. So, to learn how to research, how to, any sort of pointed topics or something that might be happening at the moment, to improve our Bible understanding, but also improve on how to answer questions about like, if people do ask you about what you believe and why do we die and all that kind of stuff, how are you going to answer them? Because it's not very convincing. He's like, oh, just because. Like you need to have conviction about what you do if you're going to commit to it. And then what happens behind the scenes is like, because I've agreed that the Bible is the way I want to live my life, there's certain principles that sit within the Bible, which is kind of like, I don't really want to murder someone. I do want to treat someone how I want to be treated. Like there's values that sit within that, which then impact your day-to-day life. So it affects you from a value standpoint, from a behavioral standpoint, from an educational standpoint. But at the same time, it's not sort of like this oppressive, like I can't have fun, I can't live my life sort of way to be.
It's awesome, man. I honestly really appreciate you, talking about it, opening us and educating us on what it is. Because like I said, and like you said earlier, it's awesome to hear that for someone that is religious, it's not a rude thing to ask what it is and how it works. And I think it's super. So yeah, I really appreciate being so open and honest with it. And it's awesome, man. So next, a massive factor in life is the academy, doing incredible things. We spoke about before, 2020 coming out of the game. The season wasn't really there, so it was sort of hard to miss. Were you working into your next big thing? Obviously the academy now, was that straight away, was it big enough at that stage to go straight into, or was it working out what you needed to do?
So we started the academy in 2016, and so it was starting to build, and we had a full cohort in Essendon. So we had 25 year 11s, 25 year 12s, and we'd just expanded to Geelong. So we had a class of, I think, 17 year 11s that would transition into year 12 in 2020. So for me, like from a business model perspective, it stood up that I could come in and fulfill a role. It could pay me a wage. It certainly wasn't footy money by any means, but I could still live, which was fantastic for me. It was something that I had identified. It fulfilled the things that I loved about football. Like I could be involved and help young people develop. I could stay physically fit. I could be outside, but I could also be creative and innovative and things like that. So for me, that transition was quite easy, that I was straight into the academy, straight into something that I loved. But then I had to do it remotely and I had to do it through COVID. So it was a challenging year, but I felt like it was a good one to sort of ease me into business life.
And to give context to the academy, obviously your business now that you're running, was that what you're talking about with Ben Rutten before, how he taught you to go to things outside of sport? Therefore, it was nearly at a stage where you're like, look, I can play footy again, but I can also go to the next chapter of my life and start this.
When I look at my career, there's so many people that just put their little piece in to sort of help me develop and become more well-rounded. And the final philosophy that came together with the academy was that I saw so many young people coming into the AFL system and pinning their hopes on being a 12 to 15 year career player, earning enough to buy a house and then that be a success story. But the vast majority are 2 to 3 year players that get spat out the system, lose their sense of self-worth because if I'm not a footballer, what am I?
Yep.
And so I wanted to create an education for young people that was, first of all, educating them professionally. So giving them a sound education where if they want to go to uni, if they want to go to TAFE apprenticeship, if they want to transfer straight into the workforce, be an AFL player, it's a well-rounded education professionally. But more importantly, personally, giving them an understanding of who they are, why they are the way they are, understanding their own unique pros and cons, but also why you love what you love, understanding your passion. Like, why do you play football? Is it for your mates? Is it for the money? Is it for the fame? Is it for because then we can create plan B, C, and D so that all your eggs aren't in AFL player or bust. So Ben Rutten certainly played a big role in sort of crystallizing all that, but there was so many other people along the way that just added their little bit to my sort of teaching philosophy at the academy. It's
unbelievable, man. You've got to be super proud of yourself, because I think we were chatting before off camera about the academy and what you've been able to forge with this education process from year 11 and 12 onwards. And I think, like, looking back at my schooling career now, like, fuck, I just had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea. And to sit down and look at these, exams that I was doing with English and maths, and have I used them since? I think something like the academy, it's unbelievable for young people, as you said, to go there and actually be learning about something that they're not only interested in, but they can actually get experience in straight away that will help them on their career path. The biggest thing I looked at as well was that, and I know you're a big fan of the show, is like the mindset side of things that you do there and help people in that way. Like, what's that about? What sort of things happen with that?
So we do a lot of and it sort of feeds into the personal education component where we have a high performance program, which is largely based around their strength and conditioning and also their skill work, but it's also around you as an individual. So what does high performance look like for you? So we're not comparing, again, like it's not Dill Buckley versus Chris Judd. We're comparing you to you. This is your goals. This is your ambitions. What does high performance look like for you in the classroom, outside in the real world as you as a person, and inside the gym? Because people always think about high performance from the aspect of how fast you can run or how much you can lift or how many disposals you can kick. But the high performance mindset is something that can be applied everywhere in your life. And it's that consistency that we talked about before, that if I want to be a high achiever in my relationship, I've got to do this. I've got to take time out. I've got to be understanding, be empathetic, all that kind of thing. So that's what a high performer looks like in that space. So it's about really putting together and helping them tap in. And it's hard at year 10, 11, and 12 to sort of realize, but I hope later in life it's sort of like, that made sense. Like, because they're doing it now and sort of going through the process a little bit, but I'm really hoping that, and we see it when they graduate year 12, that it's like, now it's really starting to make sense. And you can see them start to really take off.
Well, that's the old anecdote, isn't it? Like, you can be told something so many times, but until it clicks with you, you don't take it on board. But it's about being there consistently, having that messaging. And that's why we were chatting, before about the playing sport in general and being involved in something like the academy. You're surrounded by people with such good messaging that, in a really selfish way, I'm so lucky to have had that my other mates didn't. You're surrounded by professionals that have, as you said, such good key messages, life experience, things that you're going to need on the outside. You don't actually know that you're learning these things until you need them.
Yeah. It's the biggest, it is quite a trap too, though, because we get so much life advice, but we don't get really educated on how to do it and how to execute it. So it's like, wow, this is what I want to achieve. Like, I want to be a good leader. I want to implement some of these coaching strategies, or I want to be a teacher or something like that. Be like, okay, this is what a lesson plan looks like. This is what and I'm sure you would have found, like, as you became more professional with, your podcasting and stuff, you have to do research. Like, you have to put time into it. Like, it's not just sort of like sit here and chew the fat. Like, you've put time into this. And like, if I had $1 for every person that sort of said, hey, I just started my podcast and can we have a chat? Like, it's sort of, I'd probably have like $10, but it's kind of just like, how much effort have you put into this? How professional are you with this? And it's, that's one thing that I really look to, your podcast as being so amazing, and that you've made that transition from being a footy player to now you're a professional. Like, this is a professional podcast, professional setup, and you're starting to get the cool people on the show. Like, I'm probably not one of them, but you're one of them. Cool people on the show, coolest. Because you do the work, and it's that professional mindset. It's
funny you say that. We were talking about this earlier with Sam. We'll run down some questions that that we would have actually asked, like, early days. It would be like, Who's got the worst haircut at the club? And it was just like, fuck, it has come a long way, but it's not, honestly, it's not to do with anyone that does this and anyone that does anything. It's not where you start, it's where you can get to. And as I said, the academy can teach you those tools to do that. Can anyone go to this school?
So currently it's just for boys. We're really looking to expand to girls in the future, but we want to we're putting expressions of interest out now for our 3 campuses on our website, so theacademy.com.au. So if you are a female interested in getting involved in the education space, and you're currently not feeling like you're getting everything that you want out of
So is this from someone that's in like year 9, 10, they're going, look, is this going to be for me? They can transition from year 10 into this program?
Correct, yeah. So they finish, so currently just the boys that will finish their year 11 and 12 with us. So they'll finish and get their VCAL certificate. They'll get a Cert 3 in Sport and Rec and a Cert 4 in Tertiary Prep. The reason why we bundled them together is because VCAL it stands for the Victorian Certificate of Applied Learning. So it's that practical learning of do the theory, test it out, review it, and then go again and keep around in this cycle. Whereas VCE is very much about accumulate knowledge all the way through, and then we'll test you at the end to see how much you've kept. Like, it just didn't work for me. I needed to see how it applied in my life. So VCAL was a really good model for us, for especially athletic young boys. And that Cert 4 in Tertiary Prep allows the students to go to university if they want to. So usually you need an ATAR score to go to university. Now with this Cert 4, you can go to university, you can go to TAFE, you can go anywhere. So it's about understanding your learning style and then, creating the pathway for you specifically. So it's just for boys passionate about their football. They want to be involved in the industry in some way as a player, administrator, coach, whatever. And it's your year 11 and 12 education.
Talk us through this, and this, again, I could keep you here all day talking, but talk us through a day-to-day. Like, what does that actually look like for someone that's out there? Like, I know, I did about 4 subjects in year 12, so I was hardly at school. What's a day-to-day look like for someone that, participating in the program?
So they'll come in at before 9 o'clock. So school starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'll do their wellness check-in. So it's really important so we've got a iPad there which does their physical and mental well-being. So floor to ceiling, how you're feeling physically. So ankles, knees, hips, all that kind of stuff. How much can you participate in the high performance program at the end of the day? But also how motivated are you to be involved in school today? How are you feeling? How many hours sleep did you have last night? What are your motivation levels like? That then gets fed to the teaching staff, which then can facilitate discussions. So it's not just about calling out, oh, Jimmy's sore today, so we can't do skills. It's sort of just like, going and say, hey, mate, I understand you've been under the weather. Like, how come you only had 4 hours sleep last night? Is everything okay?
Yeah, and that's what we do at an AFL club.
And that's a lot of these things are based on an AFL football club. That you need to have these things. If you're going to perform at a high level in the classroom, we need to start having a few flags along the way. So they'll do their wellness check in the morning. And then traditionally they'll do either literacy, numeracy, work-related skills, personal development skills as part of their curriculum or their Cert 3. And then the back half of the day, that's where we'll do, so like on a Monday, that's when it'd be like a Monday after a game. So it'll be flush runs, bit of a stretch, more of a recovery type thing. We might go to a hydro facility, maybe do some recovery that way. Tuesday and Thursday, that's when we have a S&C and a footy split. So we would do sort of 45 minutes of skill work outside, all based on like game plan principles. And then the other half would go and do strength and conditioning inside. So that's Tuesday, Thursday. And then Wednesday is a double skills day. So that's related to the Cert 3 that they have. And then Friday is like Pilates and stuff like that.
Literally sounds like a week at a footy club.
It's pretty much is. Yeah. And when you think about, and this is, I think, the thing that young people don't really understand about being a professional footballer is there's a lot of meetings.
Oh, mate, that's what it is. It is all meetings. It's literally meetings.
Meetings and table tennis and indoor cricket.
Yes. I was never allowed to play cricket.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't.
Is that because your shoulders? Or?
Couldn't roll the. No, they wouldn't let me play. Like, I was so bad. Like, they just wouldn't let me play. I was allowed to physically, just socially, I got banned. Yeah, it was so shit. We'll move on from that. But no, it sounds so exciting, man. Like, if I was at that age and had something available like that now, I'd be definitely getting it. So we'll have all the links in the show notes as well for that if anyone's interested, which I'm sure there is. And you've got some new campuses coming in Geelong and
Wangaratta. So, yeah, one thing, like, our dream is to sort of align ourselves with an AB League system. It's sort of like unofficial now, but like Essendon, we see like sort of Northern Knights, Calder Cannons, Western Jets. Wangaratta's obviously the Bushies, Geelong's Geelong Falcons. Whether we go to Ballarat and go the Greater Western Rebels, have one in the south that can sort of do like Sandy and Oakley and all that kind of stuff. So that's our dream, to really connect in, because I think the NAB League is the best way into the AFL. Like, that's where everyone wants to watch. So it's sort of just having the right partnerships and making sure that the AFL are happy with it, because we don't want to step on anyone's toes. But that's what we'd love to have going.
Huge, man. You should be super proud. It sounds like a incredible setup, and I'm sure that it's doing great things, which it definitely is. Also, kids' books. Are you playing footy, religion, the academy, and now writing? How do you find time to do anything?
That's I think, if I had a superpower, that would be it. That I like
time management.
Poor time management. It's like I have so many things that I want to do in so little time. But I love because I am not a very good reader, and I never really enjoyed reading when I was younger, and so I don't know. I just wanted to get into that space to try and like sort of create some meaningful books around resilience and a little bit about my story and things like that. But I've got a really funny story at the moment now that I'm working on. That's
Please do.
Copyright. So I don't even know if I'm going to publish it or not, but I just like writing them. So I wanted to challenge myself to write like a rhyming one. Like, have you heard of like Macca the alpaca, the kids book? So
sounds
like,
familiar.
And Hama the llama. So like they're all part of it. And it's like Macca was an alpaca. He played with maracas. Like it was just like I was like, that's awesome. I want to write a kids book like that. So this one's about a potato how the thought came to my mind, first of all, was like, I was eating a baked potato, and you know how like the inside, so the outside's like, this will be all right.
Yeah.
Inside, lava.
Yeah.
And then you
it's
like
hard.
get the blister skin on the gums and all that kind of
I've
stuff.
got tingles and like from bad experiences.
So very bad. So I was like, potatoes should be sacked as that. Like, so imagine if someone took potatoes to court and they were no longer allowed to be a baked potato. So like, so this is the story of Spud the potato. He gets sacked from being a baked potato, and he's got to go and find a new job.
Is this copywriter? Is this in the making or not?
Yeah, I've written the story.
Okay, good. I was going to say
it's,
that you'd want to, because that feel like people would be stealing that one.
So what would you like? If you were a potato, what would be your first job after? So you're not allowed to be a baked potato.
I've been a spud my whole life, so I think that, now transitioning into podcasting has sort of turned out pretty well. I don't know though. I'd have to give some thought on what a potato would transition into.
So that's the question. So
do we find out?
You do.
Okay, fantastic.
So it goes full circle quite nicely, and it rhymes. So not very good rhymes, but it's like. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with this one
because from everyone I spoke to prior coming to this show, they were like, man, you got to ask like Rance, like he's always got a business idea. He's like the entrepreneur king, your inventions, like you must have like an invention list that you've been thinking of. Is anything else on the radar that's coming soon that you want to create?
Nah, not. Oh, I've got like 50 up here.
Yeah.
Do you want my sort of next two?
Give
ideas?
me your next two, yeah. Right. Or what you see, what's your most, give me your next two and then give me one that you probably won't ever do, but you feel there's a space for it that might be too far.
So these aren't ever going to happen, so I'm happy for them to put them
Okay.
So Ugg boots,
yeah.
Amazing for when it's cold.
Yeah.
What about when it's hot?
So what are you going to do?
So what you do is...
Thongs.
There's a... What?
Like Ugg boot thongs. Is that what you're going to say?
Like what? So they're like wool on the inside of your thongs?
Yeah.
Think of the design aesthetic to that. That sounds like a horrible idea. It's like people with mullets. Like anyway, so think about this. So there's like, those gel packs, the blue gel packs, ice pack.
Yeah.
So you can get heating and cooling ones of them. Ugg boot. Insert made of this gel, but so there's a layer but that goes beneath your feet that when you step on it, displaces the gel
like
around the outside,
yeah,
and it compresses your foot as you walk. Heat it, cool it, summer, winter, no problems.
You could actually take that further and just put it in any shoe. It doesn't have to be an Ugg boot.
True. Imagine that like a Vans cut-off like version.
Well, I would always think on footy boots as well. Like it always rattled me why, I'm getting off topic here, but it always rattled me why laces weren't always done up the middle. Why would you put laces down the side? You know how they used to do that on footy boots? It would really annoy me because I'm like, if you're going to kick, you're going to miss your boot and go from that. That's off topic, I know, but maybe think about that too.
Okay. But that's why I thought Ugg boot would be a good one because you just put a zip down the back, slide the insert in, foot in. So, but all you
I
could
don't know, man. You're selling yourself short. I don't think you should have told anyone about that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if they come to me and say, at Alex Rance,
well, it's on now. So
then whatever happens.
What's your other one?
We can take. So the other one was, this was an app. So I had this idea. So believe it or not, we actually went down this path, Chris Knights and I. We were like going to build this app. So before we realized that it was like clearly breaching privacy rights. But so had a big night.
Yes.
What happened last night? Oh, I don't know what happened last night. Like, out with the boys and then just like got this, just pit of nothing. Like, we went around, did a few things. Night owl.
What does it do?
The night owl tells you what you did that night.
Oh, okay. So
what you can do before the night goes on. So like, we're on tonight.
Yeah.
We're going out. We're going to hit the pub. We're going to go to Jersey Boys after.
With Hambo's, not going to pay me.
He's not going to pay you back. You're probably going to have to buy him drinks after as well, which he's probably not going to pay you back for. So espresso martinis on deal. But then just this big blank patch. So start of the night, we're on. Start, night owl, bang, away you go. Just operates in the back. So then you're taking phone call, like photos at night. You're filming Jersey Boys. Not supposed to, but you do it anyway, just because you want to. Because
you want it. It's form for safety of yourself.
Yeah, live on the life of the edge.
Yeah.
So go to another joint, send a few text messages off, make a few phone calls, get in an Uber, go to another venue, and then you get home, plug your phone in, wake up the next day. You've got like a worm that has all these like dots along it. So this is the map you traveled. You sent a photo here, you took a phone call there, you went to this, you went to that, and so it like maps out your night.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Of what you've done.
It's honestly not a bad idea.
So think about that when you're going on a holiday as well. So like this is the worm that I've traveled around the United States. I've gone like
posted in your scrapbook.
Yep, Austin, Houston, New Orleans, Memphis, Nashville. Yep. I've gone to Austin city limits, whatever, all that kind of stuff. A few phone calls, a few photos. It's like a live scrapbook that when you like tap on it, like expands. Phone call.
I like
hammer,
that.
text message sent. Pay me for the Jersey Boys. Like expands. So the barrier to that was all the boys were like, what if I have a bit of a rowdy night and someone gets hold of it? And I'm like, don't have a rowdy night then.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, what if my missus gets hold of this?
Reassess your values.
Like, well, yeah, exactly. Straighten up, fly straight.
Yeah.
So anyway, that one went in the bin as well.
Okay.
So anyway, give me some feedback on that one if you want. Just it's not talkback, is it?
No, it's not talkback. No, fuck, man.
We should try and get some
we've
callers.
Done full round circle today. Yeah. We've actually hit every facet of your life. I've absolutely loved it.
I've got a few more, but I'll leave it there because we're running out of time.
No, we're definitely not running out of time, but I just don't want to give all these good ideas away.
So I've got this idea for a game because I really enjoy Scrabble and Sudoku.
Scraboku.
Hey, I haven't worked on the rules, but I can give you there's like a Scrabble board, so triple point score and double point score, and you've got to but Sudoku rules apply. So you have like the numbers in front of you, and it's like you versus me, and we've got to try but you can block each other because.
Man, your brain is pretty elite. You've been thinking a lot lately.
I actually built the board for this, and then so my brother-in-law and I played it first with like chalk on the driveway in Port Arlington, and it was a great game. We played with cards, and then I started to build it, and I was like, why would someone buy this? They can just do it on a driveway with chalk. So again. Crash and burn, another idea, but hey, we're still.
Look, you've nailed it with the academy. I reckon we stick to that for a while. Let's reassess in 12 months, and maybe we can maybe do a joint venture together, JV.
Hey, look, I'm up for anything. I think the more ridiculous, the better. Sometimes.
Yeah.
As long as
you just got to back yourself in.
As long as the capital investment's not too high.
Yeah.
I'm all for like a real gag investment.
Okay.
Just like a joke.
Let's chat off air. It'll be good. Rancey, mate. Honestly, cannot thank you enough for your time today. Yeah, blessed to have you in the studio, man. Honestly, it's pretty crazy. Like you are, I know you don't deal with compliments well, but incredible player, incredible person. You're doing great things with the academy, and just an honour to have you in, man. Tell your story and have a chat and become friends.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for having me.
This week's episode is brought to you by Stuffed. Gone are the days of spraying deodorant as a weird flex to get girls or a chiseled pack of abs. Being a man is not about how good you look, but how good you feel. And thank goodness this day and age we have Stuff. Stuff keeps things simple and real for men with their range of personal care. Finally, there is a brand that men can align with that actually reflects the real world. No BS. Stuff champions healthy masculinity and also helps fund men's mental health via their charity partner, the Man Cave. By using Stuff, you're not only feeling good, but doing good. They've got stuff for your body, your head, your face, your pits, and all the important bits. It's Australian made, cruelty free, planet friendly, and contains no bad stuff like parabens and aluminium. So get around it and buy it for yourself and your mates, and you'll be supporting young men's mental health while feeling fresh AF. Use the code STUFFDEAL for 20% off at the websiteofstuff.com. That's 20% off with the code STUFFDEAL at the website www.websiteofstuff.com. That's 20% off. The link's in the show notes.